Welcome to CBS News Detroit at 5. I'm Shayna Humphreys.
And I'm Jeff Skaversky. The big story at 5, day 2 of the Oxford High School shooter's Miller hearing has come to an end. We heard emotional testimony today from students and an Oxford High School assistant principal who came into close contact with the shooter during the deadly mass shooting. We'll
get to our continuing coverage in just a minute, but first we'll take a quick look at weather as some heavy rain has been moving through Metro Detroit. Next, weather meteorologist Ahmed Badji is tracking it all for us tonight. And Ahmed, you were saying what happens right now will really determine what happens overnight. What are we looking at?
So that's the thing. We're going to have a nice break here as we go closer to about the midnight hour, but we have some pretty hefty showers. The storm's still moving their way on through up toward basically along 94, eastern Macomb County into St. Clair County. Check the past couple of hours here. And downtown ended up with actually a little bit of pea-sized hail, some heavy downpours moving on through. There were actually several different spots down near Trenton and even all the way up toward Croswell in Sanilac County that had some small rotation briefly before finally dying down. But these pulse-like storms are really what we're going to be looking at as we go further on into the rest of the night. Now, with that being said, you can see a lot of the clouds are out there, but there is still sun. Temps are in the 80s, humidity's up there. The yellow highlight is that slight risk from the Storm Prediction Center. The whole thing is basically a corridor for anything to pop up in Iowa and Wisconsin and to roll its way down to the southeast. It's like a highway, and everything has to follow along with it. Now, the hope is that anything that pops there will start to break apart as it comes toward us toward about 1 a.m. and then really filter on down toward the start of the morning tomorrow. We'll talk about heavy rainfall, though, because that could be a bit of an issue coming up.
And the shooter tells you to do what?
Kind of signals me to go over by his body.
And what did you do?
When he moved the gun away from his side, kind of, I ran behind his back and out the door.
Okay. Why did you do that?
Because I think when I saw his body, I realized that if I stayed, I was going to die.
Truly heart-wrenching testimony from a survivor of the Oxford High School shooting, a freshman recalling that day when 4 fellow students were killed and 7 more people were wounded. Today was day 2 of the shooter's Miller hearing, which is a proceeding required by law before a minor can be eligible for a mandatory life sentence without parole.
Of course, the shooter has already pled guilty to all 24 charges, including first-degree murder, terrorism resulting in death, assault with intent to murder, and firearms charges. It's all being considered in this hearing to determine if the teen should face life in prison without parole.
Andres Gutierrez joins us live from the Oakland County Courthouse with more from day 2. Andres.
Shayna, for the majority of this Miller hearing, we have seen the shooter with his head down as he listens to testimony. But for the first time today, we saw him crying as he listened to the testimony of assistant principal at Oxford High School, trying to save the life of one of his victims. Christy Gibson Marshall tearfully recounted her attempts to revive Tate Meyer, a student that she's known since he was 3 years old. During her testimony, she shared how devastating it was for her and how she felt the entrance wound in the back of his head as she tried to help him. It was an incredibly difficult experience for her to overcome those memories of that particular incident.
I had Tate and his brothers from elementary school all the way through high school. I've known Tate since he was about 3.
And
It was crushing, and I had to help him.
So
I just needed to save him for his mom.
Okay.
I just kept talking to him.
And what were you saying?
That I love him, that I needed him to hang with me.
Chrissy, what color was he?
He was blue. But when I was giving him breaths, he was getting lighter, so I just thought they were helping. So I kept giving the breaths.
just incredibly heartbreaking to hear that the attorneys representing the shooter say that he can change for the better in prison. They have called so far 3 out of their 5 witnesses who are trying to back the claims that he essentially has untreated mental illness and a poor upbringing that resulted him to do what he did that fateful day. They've wrapped up for the day. They are going to resume court here on Tuesday morning at 8:30, and of course we'll be here. Reporting live in Pontiac tonight, Andres Gutierrez, CBS News, Detroit.
All right, Andres Gutierrez live at the Oakland County Circuit Court in Pontiac tonight. Thank you for that report.
And joining us again today are attorneys Terry Johnson and Lillian Diallo. They have been with us over the past 2 days, listening to every moment of this hearing. Thank you for doing so and for staying with us again tonight. We've now heard from several survivors of this shooting, as well as a number of experts. The prosecution rested its case, and the defense has brought up a number of doctors, clinical psychologists, and researchers to really paint a certain picture. How do you think that's going? Who seems to have the upper hand in this case right now?
You know, in my opinion, again, let's start with who has the burden. That's the prosecution. They have the burden of showing that, you know, the defendant should not get or should get life without the possibility of parole. Right now, based upon the Miller factors, there are 5 of them. The one that I'm really seeing as a huge problem for the prosecution. Actually, there are 2. The first one I see is his background with his family and his environment. I mean, we've heard how the parents have actually just, neglect isn't even the word. I mean, I haven't found a word that can really describe how these parents and what these parents did. And the other one is rehabilitation. So having seen what I saw today from the defense in terms of the doctors and the gentleman from Michigan Department of Corrections who talked about rehabilitation opportunities, I think right now the prosecution cannot meet its burden.
Why is so much consideration being given to how the shooter will spend the rest of his life when he gave clearly no regard for the victims and their families and how their lives were going to turn out?
What he did was reprehensible. Make no mistake. I make no excuses for that. However, it's called a Miller hearing because the U.S. Constitution, U.S. Supreme Court said before you sentence someone that is under the age of 18 to life in prison, you have to hold this kind of hearing. We're not saying whether he's guilty or not guilty. Clearly he's guilty. And up until today almost, I was against everything about him. I didn't want to hear anything, right? I'm a mother. I've been in schools. I've tried to save other kids, right? Up until today when I heard he asked for help, right? He said, could you please give me some kind of mental help? Can you please, I'll call 911 myself. He was 14. Reprehensible, a monstrous behavior. You do not have the right to do what he did. Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. However, before he is sentenced, and however he's sentenced, you must have those hearings. You must. It's just, if you live in America, there's a constitution. Constitutionally, you must, right? We're not one of the nations that has extrajudicial killings. That means I can walk up to you and kill you if I think you did something wrong. We are a nation of laws. What he did was lawless, and he is going to spend decades in prison. They're not saying whether he should or should not go to prison. He's going, and absolutely he should go. But looking at his home life, looking at his dog as his friend, right? His dog dies, his parents aren't there. His friend moves away. He has no other human contact, none. The human contact he had, and you could see he connected with, was that assistant principal. When she said he turned his head and kept going, did seeing that one human person that looked at him as a human, right, and said, hey, how are you doing? Did that stop more carnage? The only time I saw him cry, that was it. The first time was when she testified. And now we know his affect is off because he's now been medicated, right? What could have happened before? I am just so outdone with this whole thing because those 4 babies, there's nothing we can do to bring them back, right? That's what we would want. We would want none of this to have happened, but here we're talking about the punishment phase, right? it's difficult, right? It's going to be difficult. It's not my call. We're just looking at these 5 factors, right? 3 of them to me go to the defense, right? 2 of them go to the prosecution. Ultimately, I am not the ultimate finder of fact. None of us are. It will be the judge and his decision. And understand, you only get one shot at it. You only get one shot at life without the possibility of parole or a term of years. You don't get to redo it. So no, he doesn't have the records that most people have when we do these Miller hearings. They don't have that, right? Because he has no history. He's in a jail where he's isolated. What do we hear? He's preyed upon even in the jail because they used his PIN number, some inmate, to make phone calls, right? Something that Terry said that really struck me. Listen, that's the most interaction he's probably had, human interaction he's going to have being in jail, in prison. Do you understand? Being in prison, because his parents, they were doing other things, and there was not one other responsible adult in his life that could reach that child. And what he did was awful, though. The birds, right? The humans, right? It's difficult.
It is. Thank you, Lillian. Terry, you mentioned the one factor, the home environment, the parents' behavior. When you consider those other 4 factors for a Miller hearing, what weight does the gut-wrenching testimony hold in a case like this? We're hearing such graphic, awful, the horrendous nature of this crime. Does that do anything? Does that apply to any of these other factors that could sway the judge's choice?
Well, you know, the judge is, he's a former prosecutor. He knows how this works. Judges, attorneys, you know, whether you're a prosecutor, defense, we know how to take the emotion out and really focus on the facts. Yes, these are heinous crimes. Yes, they are deplorable. But again, emotion is not what drives these things. You know, this is not a who can, you know, hit that spot in that heart. This is not about emotion. These are about, this case is about, I should not say the case, this is about 5 factors to determine not whether he goes to prison or not. He is going to prison. The only question is, will he get an out date at some point, whether it's 50, 60, 70 years down the road or never. That's what this whole thing is about.
Attorneys Terry Johnson and Lillian Diallo, thank you so much for being here once again on a difficult day 2 of the Miller hearing for the Oxford High School shooter. We will continue our coverage throughout the evening tonight with more from day 2 of the Miller hearing. Our gavel-to-gavel stream of that hearing continues Tuesday morning at 8:30. You can watch us all day on CBSNewsDetroit.com. We're back after this.
Fresh produce is the best produce. That's why at Kroger, we invest in local farmers to bring you the freshest seasonal picks. So no matter how you shop, your local produce always tastes as fresh as it gets. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Expand your outdoor living space and get 11% off at Menards. From patios, retaining walls, or a no-cut block project, you'll find everything you need to create the backyard of your dreams. Pick up Creststone retaining wall blocks today for only $129 each after rebate. From decorative to privacy fence panels, we have a fence to fit your project. This 6x6 Belmont privacy fence panel is pre-assembled for fast installation. Now $59.98 after 11% rebate.
Save big money at Menards.
Requires multiple phlebotomies or withdrawals of blood due to too many red blood cells. If so, you may qualify for the Verify study. Doctors in your area are conducting a clinical trial for patients with PV. Study-related care will be provided. For more information, call 1-888-270-4854 or visit www.verifypv.com to see if you qualify.
Welcome to the home of Blackjack, with the largest library of blackjack games online. Spanish 21, Live Dealer, Vacation Blackjack, and more. New players can download the DraftKings Casino app, use the promo code, and get a deposit match up to $100 in casino credits.
Capturing the view from up there to keep you better prepared down here. I am the Sky Chopper coverage from CBS News Detroit, sponsored by the Sam Bernstein Law Firm.
At Kroger, everyone wins when it comes to savings because you get the same great prices, deals, and rewards on pickup or delivery as you do in store. So no matter how you shop, everyone saves big. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Welcome back to CBS News Detroit at 5. Let's get another check of the forecast with Ahmed Badji. And once again, you're tracking the threat of severe weather, and we're just starting to get over what we saw on Wednesday.
Right, and we picked up already a couple of beefy storms today. One near Trenton and Grosse Ile, another one that moved its way basically right along the river through downtown from Campus Martius basically to the riverfront, and that's about it. So a small section, and then moving all the way up through Grosse Pointe again before now coming to a rest basically over Port Huron. There's plenty of storms now, but they're not severe, and that's the nice part to at least be able to see right now. The plethora of rainfall that we've already had from not just this week, but also even the last couple of weeks, has made everything really quite saturated. So any rainfall that we get through the night leads to more of a chance for that to collect and pool up. But I want to draw your attention to these. See these green lines right here? One there, and another one there, little one there, and then another little bit of a curve there. Those are what we call outflow boundaries. Think of it like, you know, a wave. It's just a wave. When you have another wave and another wave crashing against each other, it all gets mixed together. And along those lines, if you have one and another that hit, or you have one and a shower that hit, you can get new storms that build. And we have to watch for a lot of those to occur late overnight and interact with this stuff. You can see already out toward the Twin Cities, you've got west of Green Bay, several different cells that are already popping, and the expectation is for those to move in our direction late overnight. And you can see it basically makes a highway going all the way down to the southeast here. What's nice, tornado risk is very low, very, very low for us. It's basically all the way out toward Chicago, and that's about it, which is great. The afternoon, now that we're getting out of it, drops away. In the middle of the night, it's difficult to get anything like that to happen. We had a little bit of rotation in a couple of storms earlier, but with the late afternoon and into the early evening, that's kind of a prime time for it. Middle of the night, not so much. Now, it does become a very heavy rain potential, which is why we have a flood watch in effect until tomorrow morning at 6. We could pick up, honestly, almost 2 inches of rainfall, if not maybe up to 3 in some of the heaviest cells, if they end up moving overhead. And I know the fact that I keep saying if is probably catching on a little bit, and there's a reason for it. It's because everything we're getting now, and even the air in between, the timing for this is bad. And I mean bad to actually get storms going. The expectation right here is you've got the storms off to the west, they'll try and move on in, and we will get some storms moving through, going well into the early part of the day tomorrow. They'll be done likely just after sunrise. But as that heavy rain pushes through, we either get a nice solid line or just a few of those scattered showers. And the reason is because it's the middle of the night. It's difficult to get strong storms to form and to keep going in an environment like that. Now we get into tomorrow, beautiful. Sunday, beautiful. Once that rain is gone, and the next 7 leaves us with just sun all the way, even into Thursday. Our next chance at rain is there, but even then, it looks minimal. So a nice, easier week is out ahead of us.
The Miller hearing for the Oxford High School shooter has concluded for the day, with the defense team making its arguments as to why the shooter should someday have a chance at parole. Coming up, we'll be joined by 2 legal experts who study Miller hearings specifically to learn more about the process and the factors that the judge is considering today. Stay with us. We are rethinking the way local news is done in the 21st century.
Telling the stories that otherwise nobody would know about.
We're here to listen and actually hear what you're saying.
Our newsroom is part of your neighborhood.
They know the stories that mean the most to people who live there, what's impactful.
And we're trying to make a difference in the community, to tell stories that matter to you.
I want to tell those people's stories. Detroit is ready. Get ready, because here we come.
Chevy Silverado has what it takes to do it all. With a TurboMax engine and a 13.4-inch diagonal touchscreen. Any truck can help you make a living. This one helps you build a life. Chevy Silverado.
Or GM employees with a current eligible lease can get this Silverado for $299 a month. Chevy drives the Motor City. Visit ChevyDetroit.com.
My late father-in-law lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had AMD. I didn't know it then, but it can progress to GA, an advanced form of the disease. His struggle with vision loss from AMD made me want to help you see warning signs of GA, like straight lines, that seem wavy. Blurry or missing visual spots that make it hard to see faces, like this one. Or trouble with low light. That makes driving at night a real challenge. If you've been diagnosed with AMD and notice vision changes, don't wait. GA is irreversible. It's important to catch it early. Talk to your eye doctor about GA and learn more at gawon'twait.com.
The pandemic has taken a toll. Michigan's Stay Well program offers tools to support your mental wellness.
I'm strong with community by my side.
I'm on my way to feeling okay again.
With free Stay Well discussion groups, webinars, a counseling hotline, and more, you can be
confident. There's hope for tomorrow.
I'm attorney Mark Bernstein. We've had more million-dollar wins than most law firms have had cases. Our experience pays. So get the Bernstein advantage. 1-800-CALL-SAM.
Welcome back. We continue day 2 of our coverage tonight of the Miller hearing for the Oxford High School shooter. We heard emotional testimony today from witnesses and the shooter's legal team trying to paint the picture that teen's parents did not address his mental health issues.
The defendant has pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and terrorism resulting in death. This Miller hearing is a required proceeding to determine if the teen is eligible for a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole.
We continue our coverage now with retired Third Circuit Judge Vonda Evans, as well as attorney Sanford Schulman, an attorney who's a leading expert on these Miller hearings here in Michigan. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Sanford, let's start with you. You're very familiar with Miller hearings. Why are they needed when the prosecution has the burden of proof?
Well, they're needed for the judge to decide what the sentence is going to be. And the judge has a very difficult decision to make. And what the judge has to decide is whether to sentence to mandatory life or a sentence of 25 to 40 years on the minimum. So the defense and the prosecutor have to present these factors for the judge to consider what is the appropriate sentence. The challenge for the defense is that how do you show that he's been rehabilitated? How do you show that there's any type of remorse? He's been in jail for a year. Most juvenile lifers have been in prison for decades. So when I handle those cases, you have such a significant record that you can show that he's been in church or he's been working or he's a mentor. For this defendant, you don't have any of that. So how do you humanize him? How do you make him a human? And the victim and their family certainly don't want to hear him as a human. The public, many of them don't want to hear about his troubles. And his apologies are going to be on deaf ears. So how do you make him a person? That's the judge's job, and that's a difficult one, perhaps the most difficult. For those judges who handle civil, it's about money. For those judges who handle divorces, it's about custody and parenting time. Those are important, and those are emotional. But this is on the top. This is about life in prison for a youth or a set of years. So that's what the judge is challenged with, and that's what the judge is going to have to decide.
Now, it is rare for a Miller hearing to result in that mandatory sentence without any chance at parole, correct?
First, the prosecutor has to ask for it. That's how it starts. In this case, the Oakland County prosecutor has asked for that hearing, so the judge has to now decide it. But the prosecutor, in some situations, don't have to ask for that Miller hearing, and the judge can then set a sentence, usually between 25 and 40 years. So it starts with the government deciding if this is an appropriate case. And again, the stakes are so high. Mandatory life. He gets no more Miller hearings. So in 20 or 30 years, if his record is impeccable, he serves a mandatory life and dies in prison. That's why the stakes are high, and that's why the record is limited and the judge's challenges are very high.
Judge Evans, have you heard anything today or even yesterday that would suggest this may be that rare case that results in that high stakes decision?
You got to listen to everything. And you know, the uniqueness of this matter is that Attorney Schulman actually did a Miller hearing. And so he was able to contemplate offensively, defensively with the judge. So I think that I'm going to defer to him because he knows all of the players and he knows what to anticipate. And I think that what we're trying to do at this point is look into the future. And I think that Attorney Schulman has had a glimpse into it, at least in another case.
Well, how difficult is that? I mean, we're hearing of the mental issues, the struggles he had, the text messages, a dozen or more text messages read in court, asking his parents for help, texting a friend, I need help. And then we see what's going on, or we're hearing what's going on in prison, where he's hearing thoughts and things in his head.
Jail.
Excuse me, jail. How do we know? How do we know? It's impossible to know, right? That he will be rehabilitated in 60 or 80 years.
Right. So people who've done Miller hearings know that the key to success is the rehabilitation factor. It's the fifth factor, but I think it's the most important. How do you show someone's redeemable? You know, he's sitting in the courtroom, he's got no real history of that. How do you show that he's remorseful? He's going to stand up and say, I'm sorry? That's what's going to do it? Of course not. What's going to show that he's remorseful is a history of showing that he's rehabilitated. It's going to take decades. But he won't have the chance in decades if the judge gives him mandatory life. And I know we so want punishment. That is part of sentencing. But there is a part of us and the process that says, can you rehabilitate? Is he incorrigible? Now, the Supreme Court said that's not necessarily the factor, but is there any redeeming factors that make this human being something that he has a shot, a possibility of something less than his remainder of his life in jail or prison? And the prison will not be easy for him, not after this. But in years and years and years go by, as I meet the Miller defendants, we call them, the defendants facing resentencing, they're absolutely completely different from what they were when they were 16 and 15. They don't have a molecule or DNA like they were when they were 15. And I'm sure if we went into your past and you think about ourselves as 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds, we did things crazy, stupid, irrational. That's what kids do. That's why the Supreme Court said that youth have not developed. Their brains haven't developed. And I know there's so much emotion. We don't want to hear all this lawyer talk about the defendant. We're talking today about all the things that pull at our heartstring. And now the defense has to talk about the defendant. That's difficult. Humanize him, bring out who he is, to let the judge know that in 30 or 40 years, that person's going to be so different. And the ones I sit across from are mentors. They're clergy. They're helping people. They're really great humans.
And the case that Attorney Shulman was successful for was a police killing. And at the time, everybody was up in arms. This defendant killed a police officer. But because of what he was able to do while incarcerated, the judge said, I'm going to let him go.
It seems like such a philosophical question. I mean, one of the doctors on the stand today said he's never encountered anyone who you could definitively say there's no chance that this person will ever be redeemed down the line. How do you, as an attorney involved in these cases, get around that abstract nature in the legal system?
Yeah, that is the challenge. How do you get beyond the facts in the case that are the atrocities? And how do you make this person humanized in terms of what is favorable, what's their positive characteristics, and also what kind of trauma they've gone through? And again, the judge is detached. The judge is supposed to be unbiased, but he's human, and we're all human, and we are pulled by the atrocity and the emotional factor, but the court is required to also look at him and his challenges and the emotional factors that he has been challenged with and make that decision. And that's why it's so difficult. Emotions on both sides.
Vonda, as a former judge, hearing everything you heard today from the defense and hearing everything we heard yesterday from the prosecution, do you feel like this is leaning one way or another for the judge?
Absolutely not. Listen, I'm not going to call it till the fat lady sings up. Can't say that. I don't think the skinny lady sings. I don't know what's appropriate. I'm not going to make a judgment until I've heard everything.
But what is your feeling?
You know what? Feelings come, feelings go. I don't, as a judge, I'm detached. I don't rely on feelings. They're just that, feelings. I want to know, show me the facts. I'm from Missouri. Show me the facts. And we need to look at it. And I won't really render a decision. However, I will agree with Attorney Shulman. The judge has his work cut out for him.
Yeah. All right. Retired Third Circuit Judge Vonda Evans and defense attorney Sanford Shulman, thank you both for sharing your insight with us tonight. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we will have continuing coverage throughout the evening tonight with more analysis of the hearing. And our Gavel to Gavel stream continues Tuesday morning at 8:30. You can watch all day long on CBSNewsDetroit.com.
I just want you girls to know there's no one that deserves this more than you.
It's time to go home.
It was important for me to honor her.
Woo! Popo, this is for you.
We are literally raising the roof up in here.
Yeah, Josh is like a brother to me.
Secret
Celebrity Renovation season premiere August 4th on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
My back pain was so severe that I couldn't take the pain anymore. I would cry, it was so bad.
Are you suffering from pain? There is one product that millions of people have trusted to relieve pain for over 17 years, Omega XL.
I have lived with tremendous pain in both of my knees for many years. Getting out of bed was difficult.
Any of you at home who really care about your aches and pains and your soreness, Omega XL is for you. It is derived from a green-lip mussel from the pristine waters of New Zealand and is full of over 30 fatty acids.
This combination of fatty acids is not found anywhere else in any other product other than Omega XL. And it has been shown in clinical research to help with joint pain due to inflammation, which affects so many of us.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels. I mean, it was so excruciating.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
You don't need to live in pain. Inflammation is controllable, can be managed, and it's fixable.
Omega XL has given me an opportunity to get my life back.
Omega XL is not a pain block. It doesn't come from a prescription pad. This is real science, real studies, 30 years. This is why you can take Omega XL with confidence. This product works. And I have seen the untold thousands of people that it's helped.
I know that Omega XL works because it worked for me.
Don't let pain slow you down.
I feel wonderful, and it really does work.
Take advantage of our new offer. When you buy one bottle of Omega XL, get one free. That's 2 bottles for only $39.95. And as a gift, we'll include a bottle of Vitamin XL D3 absolutely free with your first order.
Omega XL is for you. Give it a chance, give it time. You'll be happy that you did.
Order now to get the new offer. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $39.95.
Welcome back to CBS News Detroit at 5. I'm Jeff Skaversky.
I'm Shayna Humphreys. It was another emotional, gut-wrenching day in the Oakland County courtroom where testimony continued in the Miller hearing to determine if the Oxford High School shooter is eligible for a life sentence without parole.
2 students and the school's assistant principal described the horrors they experienced on that tragic day when 4 students were killed and 7 others were wounded.
That assistant principal explained in graphic detail how she tried to save 16-year-old Tate Meir while a student, Heidi Allen, described the chaotic scene as she applied pressure to a classmate's gunshot wound.
Then I started to pray with her because I didn't know what else to do. And
what did you say to her?
I asked her if she knew who God was. And she had said not really. But I said, I think I'm supposed to be here right now because there's no other reason that I'm okay. That I'm in this hallway, completely untouched. And she started to cry, and I had taken my sweatshirt off because hers had been soaked. So I took my sweatshirt and I put it on her, and I just kept talking to her to stay with me.
Defense attorneys called psychiatrists to the stand. Part of the defense's argument is the shooter can be rehabilitated in prison. They said the Oxford shooting came after years of a turbulent family life, grossly negligent parents, and unrelated mental illnesses that went untreated.
Let's switch gears now to another big story this evening. Heavy rain falling around Metro Detroit. Next weather meteorologist Ahmed Badji is keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, we already picked up some solid rainfall, well over an inch already down in the Wyandotte area. A heavy storm down from basically near Trenton all the way up toward Port Huron. You can see actually we pop up here for you just how much was able to fall. Looking at the rain we've picked up this afternoon, the big setup for us is showing those heavy spots, blues and purple, showing all the way up to around ½ inch to almost 1.25 inches in quite a few areas. Now a wider view here shows those storms are already trying to pop from the Twin Cities area in Minnesota all the way over to Green Bay, and that line creates the corridor for the chance for strong to severe storms tonight. And that's this right here, basically building one highway all the way to the east. Now, we will likely see some stronger wind gusts late in the night. The expectation, though, is for most of the activity to head toward Chicago and basically die out before it ends up making it that much further east. It just kind of fizzles away, but until that point, we still end up with rain. And And that's why there's a flood watch in effect here for all the highlighted green counties until 6 a.m. tomorrow. It's because we're likely going to end up with some of those heavier showers. You can see where that main area of storms is hopefully going to move its way through, but we'll get another update here in just a little bit. We'll walk you through hour by hour what we expect to happen once we get into the late part of the night ahead. That's coming up.
Yeah, the possibility of flooding, obviously a concern as well with heavy rain. Thank you, Ahmed.
The city of Detroit already has crews out on the streets getting ready to respond to this latest round of rain and any potential flooding that could come with it. Brian Peckinpah with the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department tells us that avoiding chores like washing dishes and running your washing machine can help lessen sewer overflow.
Cleaning in front of your property on the street and on the sidewalks, cleaning debris out, putting it in a proper bag. That's very helpful because then that helps with reducing street flooding because we don't want those debris to go into the catch basins, which then clog them and cause the rain water that's on the street to move more slowly.
So do that chore, not the indoor ones. We'll keep you updated here on CBS News Detroit as the storm moves through the area.
An update now from DTE on the massive power outages from Wednesday's storm. DTE tells us they've been able to restore 80% of those affected, and later tonight they expect to restore power for 95%. At its peak, more than 160,000 customers were in the dark on Wednesday. They say they've had 3,000 employees in the field working to restore the power. DTE's Vice President of Operations is making this promise to customers who might be concerned they'll lose power again tonight with the risk of severe weather.
Here's my commitment to you. If this upcoming storm affects power to your home or business, you will be prioritized for restoration. We know how difficult it's been for you this past week, and we'll make sure that the time you are inconvenienced is as minimal as possible. And for all our customers out there still without power, we will be keeping all of our local and out-of-state support on property so that our army of 3,000 professionals are ready to take any damage to the power equipment we may find throughout this evening's storm.
DTE also says they're also working on setting up cooling centers, and their community vans have been passing out water and ice to those still without power. An inmate at the Wayne County Division I jail in Detroit has died after authorities say he was beaten by another inmate. The Wayne County Sheriff's Office says Thomas Carr died from injuries sustained in the July 13th attack, and the suspect, identified as Claude Lewis, remains in custody with pending charges. An investigation is ongoing. Officials say they will take stock of policies and procedures to see if any changes need to be made. A Metro Detroit woman is demanding justice tonight after a ride to the hospital in an ambulance turned tragic. Brandy Holmes was experiencing stomach pains and called 911 on Monday. And en route to the hospital, the driver of the ambulance was reportedly driving erratically and crashed into the back of a parked car at a stoplight after falling asleep behind the wheel. Holmes was a few months pregnant and suffered a miscarriage. The following day, she's now suing the driver and Heart EMS Medical Services. Her attorney says it's a tragedy that could have been prevented.
Were there other things that contributed to this car accident? We don't know. And so we're asking for answers. We're demanding answers. We're demanding that someone answer these questions and someone be held accountable for what happened to this woman, this man, and their unborn child.
The Cochran firm plans on adding more parties to the lawsuit as they gather more evidence. CBS News Detroit did reach out to Heart EMS Medical Services for comment, but we did not hear back.
The country's largest online bank, Ally Financial, says it's working to empower communities by committing close to $1 billion to housing initiatives. And some of that money will be invested right here in Metro Detroit. Ally says its goal is to help increase access to affordable housing. So it's partnering with organizations like Vista Maria, a social services nonprofit in Dearborn Heights that provides things like foster care, mental health services, and care for survivors of human trafficking.
For more than a decade now, they've joined us in being a fearless heart for our youth and helping us really to create opportunities for healing and restoration and success.
We're bringing some dollar resources to the table, but they're bringing human capital and ideas and solutions. And so we really look at it as a partnership.
The money will help Vista Maria's on-campus transitional housing program, which serves teens aged 16 to 19. It'll also provide some help for young people who have aged out of the foster care system. Well, the weather may not be ideal tonight, but it was great this morning for a little football in Allen Park as the Lions took the field in pads.
Jared Goff and the Lions continue to put in that hard work at training camp as they get ready for the season in less than 6 weeks. Sports anchor Ronnie Duncan has more on the Lions. He joins us tonight from the Rackham Golf Course, where a special presentation just took place a few hours ago. Hey, Ronnie.
Thanks a lot, Jeff and Shane. It did take place, and that's the reason why we're going to be talking about this marker here. But let's talk about those Lions. Man, today they put the pads on. And you know, if you can hear, it's all that time for a snap, crackle, and pop. Your eyes are not deceiving you? Yes, the Lions showed up this morning with shoulder pads. That means one thing. Let the games begin, because in any football camp, the competition gets popping and jobs are on the line. Just ask newly acquired defensive back Cam Sutton.
You just got to put the work in. That's all that matters. It's just guys are just hungry. You know, again, you don't know. It's not about 7th round, 1st round, whatever, undrafted. You know, that stuff don't matter. You know, it's about what you put out here on this field.
If Cam is making that point, Jason Kabinda is living it and hearing it loud and clear.
I mean, year 6 is a contract year for me. You know, it's the most competitive our team's been. I mean, there's competition like crazy across every position on our team right now.
The Lions are running the course toward excellence. Kabinda hopes to catch on more than just the eyes of head coach Dan Campbell and his staff. A healthy Jason Kabinda brings a lot of versatility and value to this franchise at both fullback and special teams.
You know what, I agree with that assessment of him too. And now, he had an injury last year. He was coming off, you know, he was a little heavier. But I would say, man, we've kind of talked about him already. He's moving pretty good. He looks pretty good. And so, you know, and you're right. He brings another element to the offense. And like with any of these guys, what you want to see, and Kabinda knows this, we just need to know he can still do it.
The fullback position is a position that not a lot of teams carry, and you know, I'm lucky to be on a team that really values that, and I got to bring my value every single day in practice and in meetings, and every way possible in the locker room, all those kinds of things. So continue to bring my value, continue to show I can play really well on special teams, and have a sustained role on the offense is going to be important for me.
Oh, man, how important is it going to be for him? Extremely. We will follow Jason Kabinda's story. I think he makes this team, and as a fullback, he can do a whole lot of things. Out of Penn State, not a bad guy. I'm sure Jeff would agree. Now, let's talk about the reason I'm here. Ben Davis, if you don't know the name, it's okay. It's a part of history. Because back in 1936, he was the first African-American ever to be named a club pro at a municipal course right here in America. And guess who one of his students was? The great Joe Louis. See, he helped bring this place, the Rackham Golf Course, to a whole new level. Because even when they started it, they wanted to be inclusive to African Americans. And today they unveiled this new marker. The lieutenant governor was here and so many more. And they agree with me. Ben Davis and the Rackham family is something sweet.
This course represents is the game being inclusive.
The Rackham Golf Course has been a public design of specialty and royalty. 1923, when the city got the keys to it from Horace and Mary Rackman. But now, years later, they're still being honored for being among the first to open the doors to minorities.
To have this marker represent both Mr. Davis and the Rackham family for the establishment of this course, them coming together, I think is really quite innovative. And so I really want to thank the folks on the commission and the local leadership who fought to make that happen, because hearing both of those stories together is really what makes the transformation.
Having a historical marker, it's really a lasting memory, and it's something that will always be here. So I have a 6-year-old granddaughter now, so maybe one day she's taking golf and drives up here, she'll be able to say, oh yeah, that was one of my uncles.
Hey, how about that? You know, I have a 10-year-old granddaughter, and she's going to say, Granddaddy, just tell him you got to go. I'm Rodney Duncan, that's your sports. 3, 2, 1. I'm done.
And that forecast is very warm going into the night ahead, with enough chances there for storms to pop up. We've got a flood watch in effect for us. We're going to break down just how much could fall and who is most likely to see the heaviest of it. Check this out.
Thank you for joining us for CBS News Detroit.
CBS News Detroit is everywhere.
We've got R2-D2 here. Say hello.
Perfect. Give me a hug.
Okay, yeah.
CBS Detroit.
We all appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Let's take a look at the forecast here.
Such a great story from Ibrahim. I want it to be one of those positive stories.
CBS News Detroit.
We are streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Get a look at that.
CBS News what? Detroit.
When you get proven quality at lower than low prices with Kroger brand products, it feels like you're winning. Find the proven quality you love at lower than low prices with Kroger brand products. Only at Kroger. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Well, it's 80 degrees, like it or not, but will your system beat the heat?
Your air conditioning system is exposed to Michigan seasons 24/7. Sub-zero temps and piled snow, pounding rains, blowing dirt, dust pollen, and more. That's why Harriman Heating and Cooling recommends an annual AC system tune-up from our certified expert technicians. Be wise before temperatures rise and stay cool this summer with our 21-point AC clean and check for only $89. Think pink.
Entresto is the #1 heart failure brand prescribed by cardiologists. It was proven superior at helping people stay alive and out of the hospital. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. And don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto.
2 new games, $5 Lucky Clover and $10 Double Win Wild Time.
A progressive jackpot that grows with every play. That's what makes Fast Cash from the Michigan Lottery such a thrilling game. The progressive jackpot keeps building and building and building until jackpot. Fast Cash, introducing new Double Win Wild Time and Lucky Clover.
You're watching CBS News Detroit.
Former President Donald Trump said today that he would not end his 2024 campaign even if he is convicted of the charges he faces.
The frontrunner for the GOP nomination made the comments a day after federal prosecutors announced more charges against him. Natalie Brand reports from Washington, D.C.
Former President Trump campaigns in Iowa Friday as he faces new charges in the classified documents case.
This is harassment. This is election interference.
A 60-page superseding indictment accuses Trump of conspiring to pressure a Mar-a-Lago employee to delete security camera footage that had been subpoenaed by investigators. The indictment also names a new defendant, Mar-a-Lago property manager Carlos de Oliveira. Prosecutors allege he told an IT employee, quote, the boss wanted the server deleted.
The cover-up is not only a crime in and of itself, it also shows that this was not an accident.
And the former president now faces an additional count of willful retention of national defense information. He's accused of showing an Iran war plan to visitors at his New Jersey golf club. The indictment notes Trump speaking during a 2021 interview with a writer and publisher. CBS News obtained a recording of that conversation.
It is like highly confidential secret. This is secret information. Look at this.
The latest legal development comes as the former president waits for a possible indictment from a Washington, D.C. grand jury looking into Trump's actions following the 2020 presidential election and the January 6th Capitol attack. As the legal issues pile up, Trump remains the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Sources close to him tell CBS News his inner circle is confident about his chances, but also on edge. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
In an interview with the John Fredericks Show today, the former president also said he has not decided if he will attend the Republican presidential candidate debate on August 23rd.
Moving over to weather now. Next weather meteorologist Ahmed Badji is keeping an eye on some storms, rounds of storms that are just moving through Metro Detroit yet again.
I know, and it's just we got one good area that popped up right along the river and moved basically along the river for today. We get a chance now for some stronger stuff tonight, but at the moment, still just holding on to a couple small showers. Now, the main storm moving eastward here. We've got a couple small spots. One right up here, just to the southwest of Auburn Hills, so still dealing with that. North end of Pontiac, a couple heavier spots for some rain all the way up in the southwestern parts of Sanilac County. But take a broader view, and the storms that are trying to pop up here to the west of Green Bay, over near the Twin Cities, we've got that moving through, but within the next hour or two, things should start to build if they want to actually move in our direction the way that some of the models have been suggesting. The fact that we don't have a ton right now is, that gives us a little hope that we won't get slammed overnight. Now, the heat is there. That run to the upper 80s, we're making it back up now. It takes a while. We had that rain earlier this morning, helps to cool things down. We've got some wildfire smoke in the air. That helps to cool things down still. Not down here at ground level, though. It's good news. But we're making our run back into the upper 80s now as we still warm up through the rest of our evening. Now, the slight risk right here, the yellow highlight that you see, that's the second category from the Storm Prediction Center. And you can see this whole thing is just one corridor from the west all the way to the east here. Expectations are we get a little bit of a pulse and a line that moves its way down to the south. And as it does so, it turns from a much stronger severe risk to our west into a wind gust and heavy rain risk for our area. And that's what you see right here. We have the flood watch that's in effect for basically everyone along and south of M59. I would agree with that. Maybe a better chance if you're along and south of 96 for some of the heavier stuff, but along and south of 59 is not bad. I mean, it's definitely going to be rainy throughout much of the area, but these are also the spots that have had a lot of rainfall recently. Now, as the showers move through, I know you see this pulse, but when that heads toward us here late in the evening going into the night, we have more that will form right here, and that moves its way through. But whether or not this turns into a large line or just kind of fizzles out like this model suggests, it really depends on what happens over in Wisconsin over the next couple of hours. And right now there's not a lot building, even with the unstable air they have. The reason that I'm hopeful for the night is that it's a bad time to try and get severe storms to go. Even with the fuel that we've got, even with the front itself moving through, it's very difficult in Michigan to get severe storms like that to roll through in the middle of the night. It's very tricky. So that's some good news we've got going for us. A stray sprinkle very early Sunday morning before we dry up for the end of the weekend. A gorgeous stretch and plenty of sunshine through next week.
All right, Ahmed. Coming up, a town in California has a problem with residents abandoning pet bunnies in a park, and now they're taking over the streets. The new effort to rescue those rabbits, that's coming up.
More furniture, more savings at Gardner White. We have it in stock and they don't. Thousands of living rooms, dining rooms, bedrooms, and mattresses ready for free same-day delivery. Save more at the Gardner White Overstock Sale.
To go to the heart of stock car racing, you'll need to go to the heart of the stock car, where a history of high speed roars to life, and a passion for good times fuels it all weekend long. Where kids can be kids, and adults can be too. It's anything but slow at Michigan International Speedway. Come be a part of the action. Get your tickets now at mispeedway.com.
Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Their first response is, I'm sorry, we can't cover that.
The other person's insurance company started looking into mine and my husband's assets. It scared us, and we needed protection.
I really didn't know what I could do, but what I did hear was a lot of good things about this company, Morgan & Morgan.
I do liken it to picking the biggest dog in the yard.
It's easy to call Morgan & Morgan, and they know how to deal with insurance companies.
Entresto is the #1 heart failure brand prescribed by cardiologists. It was proven superior at helping people stay alive and out of the hospital. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. And don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto.
This is ready to go online. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one. How about the best network imaginable? Let's invent that.
That's what we do here.
Quick survey. Who wants their internet to work pretty much everywhere?
Because we're busy women.
We don't have time for lag or buffering.
Get internet on the Xfinity 10G network for just $35 a month for 2 years with Wi-Fi equipment included.
And it needs to run smooth, like super smooth.
Hey, should you be drinking that?
It's decaf.
The next generation 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now.
Same-day delivery. Save up to $500. Plus 0% financing for 88 months as low as $20 a month. Plus free gifts at the Gardner White Overstock Mattress Sale.
You're watching CBS News Detroit.
New efforts are underway to rescue fluffles of bunnies. And yes, today I learned a group of wild rabbits is called a fluffle. And this fluffle was abandoned at a park in California.
Didn't know that either. More than 100 bunnies have been rescued over the last 2 years, but the numbers continue to grow. Marley Ginter has that story.
Crossroads Park in Citrus Heights has a problem with people abandoning pet bunnies.
Maybe people aren't aware that dumping is illegal.
Volunteer groups like Only Sunshine Sanctuary are rounding up the rabbits, collecting more than 100 in just the last 2 years. But the numbers grow so rapidly, they sometimes spread to other nearby homes and businesses.
They multiply like rabbits.
The problem is so bad, the city put up these signs warning people that dumping animals is illegal.
Domestic rabbits are not made to live in the wild.
Domestic rabbits should live 10 years, and in the park they only live about 2 to 3 years.
But rescue groups have complained that the city is not doing enough to stop the dumping.
It just felt like nothing was getting done. Nobody was listening. Nobody was understanding or caring.
Now the city of Citrus Heights and animal welfare advocates are joining forces to round up the rabbits.
We have a code enforcement team that's ready to deploy. We have an animal services team that's ready to deploy.
The rescue effort also comes with financial support.
It is extremely expensive. It costs us about $200 a rabbit, and that's if they don't need immediate medical attention.
The Placer County Animal Shelter will spend several $1,000s to perform spay and neuter surgery on the rabbits so they can be adopted.
This is going to be a huge deal for us.
The city and volunteers are also talking about setting up adoption booths at community events, all in an effort to get these bunnies new forever homes.
The best way that we can show that we care is to work together.
It just can't be said enough. Don't buy a pet unless you're ready for the pet, for its life. That's awful that people are just dumping them.
It is, but you have to appreciate the rescue efforts to help these bunnies and find them homes. All right, coming up, we continue our coverage of the Miller hearing for the Oxford High School shooter. Next at 6, we hear from a retired Third Court Circuit judge about what we can expect when the hearing resumes on Tuesday. CBS News Detroit continues at 6.
And we are always streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV. Stay with us.
Feiger Law has taken on and won some of the biggest auto accident cases in the country. We take on and win auto accident cases every single day. Our trial lawyers will get you the justice you deserve. Feiger Law. All we do is win.
Thousands of women with metastatic breast cancer are living in the moment and taking Ibrance. Ibrance with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ibrance plus letrozole significantly delayed disease progression versus letrozole. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening chest pain, cough, or trouble breathing. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. For more information about side effects, talk to your doctor. Be in your moment. Ask your doctor about Ibrance.
Introducing catchy comedy.
What's that?
A network celebrating the best in TV comedy.
Oh, that's big.
Featuring a who's who of funny women and TV legends.
It's the most unforgettable characters I ever met.
It's America's new front row to fun.
Catch me, catch me!
So catch all the laughs. Watch Catchy Comedy on Broadcast Channel 2.5 and Comcast 283 and 1186.
Catchy, huh? Kind of catchy.
When you get proven quality at lower than low prices with Kroger brand products, it feels like you're winning.
Sampling